potentially critical part of the health care battle is taking place far from the national stage. Next week's vote to fill the seat of the Massachusetts senator, the late Ted Kennedy, which will determine whether Democrats retain the 60-40 margin they believe they need. Well, the state's political leanings are about as consistent as the Tower of Pisa's. The fact that this is a special election with charged-up teabag party members on one side and an uninspired Democratic base on the other led both the Rothenberg Political Report and the Cook Political Report to now call this race, quote, a toss-up less than 1 week out. The Democrat Martha Coakley continues to lead in the polls, including a Research 2000 poll conducted yesterday and Tuesday that put her up 49% to 41, a healthy margin elsewhere, but close enough that the two most recent Democratic presidents are working to engage the Democratic base. President Obama issuing a video today explicitly tying Tuesday's election to health care reform.
She'll be your voice and my ally, which is why the opponents of change are pouring money into your state. They believe that by defeating Martha and replacing Ted Kennedy with her Republican opponent, they'll be in a position to tie up the Senate and prevent a vote on health insurance reform, financial reform, and other issues so important to working families of Massachusetts and the nation. So I need you to put on your walking shoes again. Knock on doors, call, email, text, and tweet, and make sure everyone you know understands the stakes for their families, for Massachusetts, and our country.
Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst Lawrence O'Donnell, also a contributor at Huffington Post, former chief of staff of the Senate Finance Committee. Thanks for your time tonight, Lawrence.
And former Massachusetts voter, Keith.
I was going to say, this is not exactly outside of your bailiwick, to use a Massachusetts term. Where are the Democrats in Massachusetts? I mean, the state hasn't voted in a Republican senator since 1972. They're going to start now with a teabag guy 1 year after electing Barack Obama?
They have voted in plenty of Republican governors since then. They've been shut out in the Senate, but actually they've dominated the State House with governors during the Ted Kennedy's Senate career. And, you know, remember, Barack Obama lost the Massachusetts primary, even with Ted Kennedy's backing and John Kerry's backing. And remember that Ted Kennedy, during all of those governor's races during his career, was always campaigning energetically against the Republican for the Democratic candidate, and most of the time losing. And so the Kennedy coattails here have never been strong in the state, and they're not working right now.
And the impact of the limited campaigning, or campaigning by proxy here by President Obama, President Clinton, for candidate Coakley, is that going to have the impact that they hope, enough of an impact?
Well, it's very tricky because the Obama health care plan is polling below 50% in Massachusetts. The last poll I saw, it was at about 43%. The president has lost a tremendous amount of political capital in the state of Massachusetts. And so it's that bad year for incumbents, Keith, that we've all been hearing about. Governor Deval Patrick's numbers have collapsed. He's definitely on the wrong side of the popularity numbers now. And so it's a very tough time for people to come into Massachusetts and trying to tell Massachusetts voters how to vote.
One thing, though, that I have not understood, and perhaps this is my naivete and relative inexperience in this field of politics, but it would seem to me that there are a lot of things that a candidate could overcome in his previous life, but posing nude for Cosmopolitan magazine is not one of them. How has that one issue not become something to rally around, against, or even for in this candidate, the candidacy of Mr. Brown, the Republican?
Well, it turns out Massachusetts has become very French, Keith. This is welcome to 21st century politics in Massachusetts. True, it's inconceivable, during my lifetime that I would have seen that not be a liability. But people are leaving it behind. They're just, it's so far anyway, it's being treated as something that's in his distant past, and they're judging the candidate they're seeing today.
Yes. Last question, doubling back to health care. You mentioned what the effect of health care might be having on the Coakley candidacy. What about the reverse version of that? What's this doing to support for health care in Massachusetts, health care reform? Because either Democrats want to hurry up, or just because people in Massachusetts, of all places, has the party terrified about November? Well,
Massachusetts is a problem for the Democrats on this subject because they've been responsible there trying to address this issue ahead of the federal government. And so now, politically, what the National Democrats are presenting to Massachusetts is, yes, you've got this issue already dealt with in your state, but now we're going to ask you through taxation, including the tax you were talking about in the last segment, we're going to ask you to help pay for health care in other states, because Massachusetts is a donor state to the federal government. It sends in more money than it gets back. So it's hard to see in Massachusetts what the great deal is, other than just being a good teammate on the 50-state bandwagon. So this is it's very difficult for Coakley to make health care reform a driving force for her campaign in a state that already has health care reform. And the rush in the White House now, the panic in the White House in getting this bill done, getting it to CBO, is all about the possibility of losing that seat on Tuesday, which everyone in the Democratic Party now takes very, very seriously.
Lawrence O'Donnell, who knows his health care, who knows his Democrats, knows his Massachusetts, and does not know his Cosmopolitan magazine. Great thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks, Keith.